Good morning, everyone. It is March 14th, 2018. I'm Eric. Here I am at SHTFplan.com. This report was originally published by Selko at the Organic Prepper. Selko is a individual who was stuck in a country that was war-torn and shit hit the fan there. What we ate and how we got food when shit hit the fan. Editor's note: if a disaster is bad enough and lasts long enough, it isn't going to take long before there is no food to be had. In this interview with Selko, he shares his real-life experiences and explains how people kept from starving to death when there was no food in the stores. And the editor is Daisy Luther. Her first question: how do you get food when there is no stores? He says at the beginning of everything, most of the people did not have any significant stash of food in their homes. In other words, the majority of common folks had food for a couple of days in their pantry, and that was it. There were exceptions to that because the process of collapse did not happen in a few hours. In terms of suddenly there is no food in the stores. When the chaos started, people looted stores after a short period of everyone buying things in a panic. Still, the majority of the people did not manage to get a decent stash of food from stores. Some did not want to believe that they were going to need a stash. Others did not want to go out and participate in looting because it was dangerous. But I think the most obvious reason was that all food from stores was taken very fast. In the beginning period of SHTF, events unfolded at a very fast pace. Actually, events go one after another so fast that if you find yourself lost in one event at the end of several events, you ask yourself, why in the name of God did I not go out and buy a whole bunch of food while I still could? Was gardening an option? If so, how did people protect the gardens? To nutshell this, they lived in a city and there wasn't a whole lot of room for gardens, and the little bit they were able to grow only lasted a few days. How often did MREs get dropped? They were dropped MREs sometimes once a week. Then they wouldn't see it. It was very random that they got food drops. So, and by the time a lot of people got to the food, got to where the drop landed, the food was already gone because people waited out in the countryside for these drops. So, and they talk about how at the beginning people wanted to, during the looting and all that, people stole things like TVs, electronics, music, and they did not do the smart thing and get the food. She asks, what foods were you able to forage? And I will tell you no. I've already read this article. that they didn't know what plants were edible and which weren't, and a lot of them ended up taking the advice of people who survived World War II. They used pine needles for tea. And it is healthy, loaded with vitamins and so on, but you can't live on pine needle tree, or tea rather. Plants like nettle and dandelion were used, and in the worst periods, people simply started to use any available grass mixed with a small amount of flour. How fucking gross. Eating plants and herbs in that time was not a case of healthy living. It was a matter of not having anything else to eat. Were you able to scavenge food from deserted buildings? The short answer is yes. When an SHTF, especially in the beginning, some houses became empty, people left or died inside for whatever reason, for example, shelling. Then folks would go through the empty houses and scavenge for food. One memory from that time is the endless stench of rotten food. There was no electricity for fridges. In the beginning, you could find food in that way. If you were lucky, sometimes you could find a bigger amount of food. Sometimes you came upon a house where the ex-occupant clearly hoarded food in the first days of rioting. That period of time did not last for long. The stench of rotten food was pretty much substituted with another kind of stench. Soon there were more dead people than spoiled food in the city. But even later, you would never know what you could find in the destroyed and abandoned houses. Maybe a few cans of food hidden or forgotten somewhere under the rubble, or in a destroyed fridge. One thing interesting from that period when it comes to scavenging, and also very important in prepper terms, is that I witnessed and was part of something that I can call the transition of scavenging, or maybe resetting the values of goods. It goes something like this. First, people ran riot on stores and looked for valuables like gold, money, TV, stereo, cars, and then as they realized the situation, they looked for weapons, fuel, then candles, batteries, and food. Then they'd dig up some gardens for a few potatoes. People needed some time to realize what was really important. It didn't take very long, but sometimes even a few days or a week is important. I have seen people running from a mall with items that in a few days would become most ridiculous items to possess. In the middle of a collapse, things like a TV or a laundry machine or a music collection of a famous band is ridiculous, right? The majority of people could not imagine what was coming, so they could not fathom that a bag full of AA batteries was going to be worth more than 50 laundry machines. For example, the laundry machine was usable only to plug a hole in the wall from shelling or to reinforce the door. I'm not advocating that you go out rioting and taking stuff from malls and stores when SHTF, but let's say that if you find yourself there, think about what is useful to take in prepper terms. I don't need to read the rest of this article to you to talk to you about this here. And that's what it really boils down to, is your decisions at the beginning. Now, if you're like me, you don't have a whole lot of money, and you may not have a choice and going out and participating in the first stages of shit hitting the fan. And if you don't, do what you gotta do. Do what you gotta do to survive. Just don't be an idiot and take fucking TVs and other nonsensical shit. I would still take the gold and silver, but your focus really should be on food and water. Thought I'd share this with you. Who knows how long it's going to be until these things happen here, but I can assure you we are headed down that road very, very quickly. Hope everyone has a great day. Kill the state and live free.